Welcome to the new series here on the Killer Point of View network called Hidden Horrors, where we shine a light on the darkness hidden in non-horror classics. And today, for our first film, we are discussing Twilight.
Yay! I also like that you used the word classic there.
I mean, by popular... it's a popular film. It's considered a classic by a lot of people. Like you.
That is correct.
But let's dive right into it. So horror is in a lot of different films. Not just horror films. Horror is in a lot of different genres, and Twilight isn't a horror film by any means. It's not horror at all, but there are some horror elements in the film. I think when the film first started off, we kind of see a little bit of that just from how they, Bella goes from this place of warmth and life to, this cold,
wet, gloomy.
Yeah. Kind of area. It kind of speaks to how she will be throughout the film. She just kind of slowly fades into this whole different world. Every time I think about Twilight, the first Twilight anyway, I always think about how it look and how it feel. It feels like it feels cold and like you said, gloomy and it feel like a vampire type of feel. It actually reminds me, just the visual. It actually reminds me of The Ring, 2002, The Ring.
I can see that.
Just the colors, like the greens and the blues, and how they use those. And because The Ring was actually filmed in, or took place in Seattle, Washington, and Twilight takes place in Forks, Washington, and I think that's about a 4-hour drive between the two. So it actually makes sense why I kind of see that. I see The Ring in Twilight when I watch Twilight.
You know what else takes place in Seattle?
Grey's Anatomy.
Okay, I just didn't want you to forget.
But what do you think about the aesthetics?
I mean, I think it's spot on. I think it does a great job of portraying exactly what it needs to do. Mm-hmm. It really puts you in the moment. It puts you in that place. And I just think it does a really great job. And I know we talk about, I actually seen, they have different little slides of like the coloring from each movie. So I think overall they've done a great job with that.
Yeah. Like I said, when the film first started off, it, shows Bella in, where is she? Arizona?
Phoenix, Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, felt more alive there.
It's like a bajillion degrees there. The sun is always out.
Right, and then she moved to this place where it's always raining and it's cold, and there's a lot of scenes where there's fog and
it's just always wet. I couldn't do it. Like in real life, I couldn't do it.
It gives off a horror vibe, visually, mm-hmm. in certain scenes anyway. Because like I said, obviously this is not a horror film, but it's sprinkled in there, mm-hmm. here and there. But yeah, obviously you have the vampire aspect to it, which is obviously horror related. But we don't really get a lot of vampire looks.
What do you mean?
Like visually, there isn't a lot of, like, we don't see the teeth with the vampires, like we do on any other vampire film or TV show.
People are getting ripped limb from limb, so.
Huh?
Especially at the end, they rip his head off.
Yeah, but like we don't see that transformation. Like, look, I got my Buffy shirt on. Can't see that. Got my Buffy. Why are you shaking your head?
I'm a Buffy hater.
Why would you say that?
Because I have to live my truth, and I know people are gonna fucking throw their phone across the room, and
I'm about to throw my phone at you.
Never listen to me talk again.
I'm about to throw my phone at you. You haven't even seen.
I've seen enough.
You've seen a season and like 3 episodes.
I've seen enough.
Anywho's, if you watch season 2 of Buffy, I mean, you can't really see stuff for what it was. You kind of look at it from today's point of view, so you can't really see it now. But the second season of Buffy felt very Twilight-ish. Like there's a lot more love story in that season than in the first season that you saw.
I'll take your word for it.
If you would have watched Buffy when it was, out and coming on TV, I think you would have liked it.
Possibly.
When people think about vampires or even becoming a vampire, and you can speak to this because you want to become a vampire for some strange reason. The first thought is like, I get to live forever, but realistically, it's not all that when you really think about it, because you get to see everyone around you die, grow old and die.
Well, I mean, I have, some pushback against that. One, they are not immortal. Okay, they can die. So
yeah, but
there's that. 2, I would just turn everybody that I like into a vampire, and we would have our own little vampire club, and it would be great.
So you would just make everybody a vampire?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to be a vampire. But no, like, eternal life, there's a horror element to that, because, if you're a vampire, and like I said, you see everybody around you that you care about die. Even if they are a vampire, they can still die, right?
I mean, but that happens in real life, so like...
I know, but there's pain in that, seeing people that you care about grow old and die. You'll kind of get to a point where you don't want to feel that anymore, so you stop caring for people, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's entirely possible.
But, and we always... we always disagree with this, because Edward is 17. Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Edward is 17.
He even said he was born in 18?
Okay, but his body physically, all of his body physically is 17. He did not grow past that point.
He's like 90 years old, because this was 2008 when the film came out. He's about 90 years old. And he's messing with a 17-year-old.
He's also 17. Physically, mentally, and that's another thing. People
not like mentally.
Yes. People. No. He did not continue. He might have gained knowledge as far as like, oh, I can tell you what happened in this fucking war, or I can tell you what happened on this day in 1982. But his maturity level did not increase. So
yes,
this is why I do not take into account anything going on in this movie, because neither one of these individuals have a developed frontal lobe. Okay, they are just out here doing teenager shit, acting like teenagers.
But he's not acting like a teenager. He's been around for 100 years.
But mentally, he's still 17, and
No.
I will die on that hill. And another thing that people need to realize when they watch this movie is based off a book that a lot of people didn't read unless you were like a teenage girl in the early 2000s. This was meant to be a YA book. This was not meant to be something for adults. It was meant to be for teenage girls. Okay, and I think it really hits the mark there, because you're trying to make it into like something creepy and something weird, and it's not.
I'm not trying to make it anything. He's 100 fucking years old. Messing with, look, on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when because she was dating Angel, who's a vampire, he was also old as hell. That's creepy.
I mean,
and she was
there is an allure to older men,
like
so like,
yeah, there's that. It's creepy.
It's fiction.
Certified lover boy, certified.
No, people need to know that there is a line between fiction and real life, and you don't cross it. And just because you like fictional things doesn't mean that you'll do that in real life.
Okay, in the movie, it's creepy.
That's fine. That's fine.
Since we're talking about their relationship, let's talk about how toxic it was. Well, I think it's toxic.
Because Edward is the king of gaslighting and manipulation.
Well, continue on with that, because that's not where I was going, but continue.
Okay, well, if we're to believe that he's some 90-year-old dude, it's the one scene after she almost gets hit by the van, right, when she's talking to him, and she was like, you were across the parking lot, and he's like, no, I wasn't, dude, I was right next to you, and he's gaslighting the fuck out of her, and she's just standing there like, is this motherfucker serious? Like, I saw you, and then he hits her with the classic, well, nobody's gonna believe you. Classic fucking gaslighter.
To be fair, he is trying to keep the fact that he's a vampire secret because it will put a lot of people in danger.
Yeah, but then like 14 minutes later, he's like, nah, fuck it.
Well, that's the toxic part. Like he was like, you shouldn't speak to me anymore. Like, you keep going up to her. What the fuck do you mean? That is toxic, very toxic.
Maybe he just felt a really big emotional pull to her and he just couldn't stay away.
He did. He was just curious about her because he couldn't read her fucking mind, and that was intriguing to him. So that's what happened. But that stuff is not what I wanted to talk about with the obsession thing, because this motherfucker went to her house uninvited in her room and watched her sleep. That's obsessed. And
maybe he was just curious. He was like, I don't sleep at night, so let me go see what it looks like.
Let me be clear. She was also obsessed with him.
Mm-hmm. I know we're not talking about the other movies right now, but if you've watched the second movie, you know just how deep it gets. And
that's why it's toxic. But they weren't even the only people in this film that was obsessed. What was Anna Kendrick's character name?
Oh my God, why can't I think of it?
Because she was obsessed with the one guy.
It wasn't Angela. Holy shit.
No, it wasn't Angela.
No, I know. I'm trying to think. Why can't I remember? I can literally see her standing there in her volleyball uniform and introducing herself, and now I can't fucking remember it.
Yeah, that's the scene I'm thinking about because she just came out of nowhere and just started talking to the...
No, she started was like lingering in the background watching their interaction.
Yeah, but that's because she was obsessed with the guy, and she wanted to be involved in anything he was involved in.
I mean, again, I feel like that's just very teenager-esque.
Jessica was her name.
Yeah, there we go.
And it was Mike who she was obsessed with.
Yeah.
But that wasn't as obsessed as Edward and Bella, because they were very obsessed. Because she saw a lot of red flags and she ignored all that shit and still wanted to.
Were they red?
Yes. Bloody fucking red. What are you talking about? You had the gaslighting, like you said.
Yeah, but then if you're like, oh, well, he's just trying to protect his family. You just said that yourself.
Well, she didn't know that in the moment. She looked past that. The all the creepy shit, the mood swing. She even mentioned that. She said she'd get whiplash from his mood swings.
Because I feel like when he's like thirsty, that he's kind of like, all over the place.
But he's always thirsty.
I mean, maybe. Oh no.
No, he said that. He said eating animals they're never satisfied with that. They're, they always want more. It gets to a point where Bella doesn't want to do anything without Edward. I mean, and we're just talking about the first film, but you really see that in the second film. But even at the end of this film, when he was saying that she should go with her mom and stuff like that, she started freaking out in the fucking bed.
She just went through something so traumatic. Like, I feel, again, teenage brain, PTSD, I understand it.
She was acting like a crazy person in that fucking bed.
Okay, well.
Like, if I would have seen that, I would have been like, no, bitch. No. She wasn't acting crazy to you?
I don't think if you take into account the shit that she just went through. That's just my opinion.
No, but there's a horrifying feeling about losing yourself in someone else. To speak about Bella specifically, you kind of see her lose her humanity a little bit, even though she was, still human. But, like after the baseball scene, and after, she kind of flipped out on her dad so she can make him think that she was actually leaving town or whatever. They were driving through town and, she was seeing all of her friends, coming out the restaurant, having fun, and like she was losing that. She was dealing with this huge drama or whatever. And, she wasn't able to really act her age, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's Friday night, you go to the movies, you go out to dinner, you hang out with your friends, whatever. You're not being chased down and running for your life from a psycho, long-haired, ugly vampire.
And it's like her identity became tied to Edward. Like I said, she couldn't do anything without
and that's
him.
Called a trauma bond.
Yeah, because vice versa, he didn't want to do anything without her, and them being together put all of their family and friends in danger. Yeah, I just, I don't know. I couldn't be me.
Well, and another big reason that he's drawn to her, he even talks about it, like basically her scent, like she smells a certain way, which I can't remember if it's ever explicitly said, but there are theories that like later on it has something to do with like her abilities, and that's why he was kind of drawn to her. And again, that's why he couldn't read her mind and stuff. So I don't know, but that plays a big aspect into it too. And even when Edward was in the forest and he was talking about, like, I'm designed to be alluring to you and get you to trust me and come to me so that I can eat you.
Well, yeah, that, and that's a hidden thing also in this film, because we see that a lot in other vampire films. Seduction is definitely a part of the vampire I don't know, mythos or whatever the fuck you want to call it. They are very seductive. I mean, you could point to anything. Vampire Diaries, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Lost Boys, Interview with a Vampire. Like, it's very, vampires are very, they lure you in. Yeah. And he did say that. So. So I thought this movie was perfect for, the first episode of this show, because, it does have, vampires, which is very horror, but obviously they don't lean into the horror side of that, especially with the whole sparkle shit. But you know, it is you know, it's the stuff that goes on in Twilight is very surface level. Like the love and the you know, the drama and all the stuff is very surface level. But when you really look deep into the things that's going on, why it's happening, and stuff like that, it's a lot of horror elements there. And what do you think?
I mean, definitely everything that we just talked about. You really have to take a deeper look at it, and I think, I mean, let's see. The book came out in 2005. I did not read it in 2005. I probably read it like 2 years later when I was like 13, 14. So none of this stuff clicked in my mind when I was that young reading it. I was just like, I love Edward, and that was it. So there's that. But yeah, I think if you dig deeper, you can definitely find a lot of those horror elements in there. And one final thing that I'll say is that I read a really interesting article about how basically if you watch all of these movies from Charlie's point of view, the entire thing is a horror movie. And I think that's really interesting. And so it was a good read.
Well, yeah, because that was his daughter. And
yeah, but just like all the little things, like when it, you know, later on when he hugs her and like it kind of clicks in his mind that, you know, she's so cold, and like him looking at Renesmee and like seeing her eyes and being like, oh my God, those are my daughter's eyes. And, you know, they're telling her that what did they tell her? That that's like their Edward's niece or something?
Some shit.
I can't remember, to be honest, but just kind of all those little things. Even in the first movie when, you know, she sits there and hits him with that line that her mom said, and, you know, he's like, I just got you back, and like all those kinds of things. So I think that also plays a big role as far as like the psychological stuff.
Yeah, so there's definitely horror. Horror isn't just things that's scary. Like it's not. You know, there's fear, there's terror. You know, but you know, there's also shocking, disgusting, even. You know, just because it's not scary doesn't mean it's not horror. I mean, you know, people who look at horror films as, you know, if it's not scary, then it's not horror. You know, I feel like they have tunnel vision, and you're missing so much more that horror films have to offer. I actually look at those people the same way I look at people who only watch horror movies during October. Like, you know,
well,
it's
he just called y'all out.
I mean, you're missing a lot. that's all I say. You're missing a lot. But and it's because, you know, some people can't look past the surface of things, you know, because horror, you know, horror can be loud, it can be in your face, but sometimes it can just whisper like a ghost.